All right. We've got Dan speaking for the Democrats and Alex speaking for the Republicans. The panelists have agreed that Dan is going to give the first opening statement. Dan, you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. Tonight you're going to hear from 2 of your fellow students the positions on health care for this country, for that Senator McCain and Senator Obama have this upcoming 2008 election. You're going to hear why Senator Obama's plan is going to change the direction of this country for health care, and why Senator McCain is more of the same failed policies the last 8 years that have decimated this great nation that I call America. Okay? In this country, we have 45 million Americans who are uninsured. So when you get out of college, there's a good chance that if you don't get a job, you're not going to have health insurance. Sorry, you're just out of luck. The Economic Policy Institute declared that they looked at Senator McCain's policy and said that with this policy, less than 5% of people currently insured will then get insurance, compared to Senator Obama's plan, which had 9 times the amount of people would now get insurance. Senator Obama's plan will also save you a great deal of money. Currently, 29% of Americans don't even bother going to a doctor because they simply can't afford it. Right now, there's 3 ways people get health insurance. The first is through the employer, the second is through the federal government, through a federal employer, and the third is through private insurance. Tonight, my opponent is going to try and come up with all sorts of reasons why Obama's plan is not going to work. He's probably going to use the word socialist because that's what people do when they don't have good ideas. Don't be fooled. This is the same John McCain. You can be condescending all you like. I'm sorry, I'm still speaking here. This is the same John McCain that 1 month before economic crisis said, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to deregulate the health insurance industry just like we did the banking industry the last 10 years. Well, unfortunately, it didn't really turn out the way. As you know, we have kind of an economic recession, entering depression. So if you guys want to vote for Senator McCain, you do so at your own peril. But, do we really want McCain in charge of health insurance? I say, no way, no how, no John McCain.
Thank you. 2 minutes now. I'm not going to use my opening 2 minutes to start debating the topics because that's not where we are yet. That'll come later on throughout the debate. So I'd like to go on with my normal opening statement. Good evening, fellow students, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, but most importantly, my fellow Americans. We have come to the part of the night where we'll be discussing perhaps the most lasting of political topics, and that is health care. Health care is something many of us take for granted in this country, but the truth is that many people, like he said, do lack health care. I happen to know quite a few myself. A few people who work at a small family-owned business on Long Island whose business will actually be threatened under Barack Obama's taxation policies. That's why he's coming out to vote for the first time in 20 years. But Democrats like people to believe that Republicans simply push the issue of health care aside, that everyone should fend for themselves. They believe that Republicans like the idea of a child who can't go to a doctor because his parents can't afford it. This is not the case. Republicans just believe in a different way to provide not just health care, but quality health care. Health care is nothing if it's not good. One only needs to look at horror stories of Canadian universal health care in which people can't simply get life-saving cancer medication because the government is unwilling to pay the bill. Republicans and the Republican Party have always stood on the side of the American dream. If you work hard, if you make an honest living, eventually you can succeed. You can attain wealth, and you don't need to redistribute it to the masses. Democrats, on the other hand, seem to be a party of the American fantasy. A fantasy in which they come up with these grandiose ideas that cannot be implemented and American people can simply not afford. Their government-supported health care is just another thing that on the surface sounds good, but when one really looks at it, realizes how backwards it truly is. Republicans believe in quality, affordable, portable health care, and most importantly, health care that you, the American people, get to choose.
Hold your applause until the end.
You can cheer for me. I'm just kidding. I'm trying to lighten the mood a little bit. It's so stiff in here. I'm losing the tie a little bit. I don't wear ties a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so, you didn't answer the question. Oh, I know, I don't get the answer. I get it.
Yeah, no, what? There was one train going to Kansas City at 60 miles an hour.
It's a typical politician. I got my answers prepared anyway.
Dan, should health care be delivered by the federal government or via private industry as it is now?
Well, for the last 8 years, probably even before that, we tried using a private insurance policies. We tried using, employers for small businesses would foot the bill. We tried using, people would buy their own individual insurance from private companies. But clearly that hasn't worked if we still have 45 million Americans without health insurance and 47% of the general population without health insurance. So clearly we got to do something here, unless, my friend Alex here would still like to continue these same failed policies the last 8 years with George W. Bush. Under Senator Obama's plan, it's a change that we need, and I really can't stress this enough. I know you guys hear a lot about the word change, but Senator Obama's plan would not only save Americans by giving them a $2,500 a year rebate for tax insurance purposes, for help with that, but Senator McCain's plan would actually, for the first time in American history, use health insurance as a taxable income. Meaning, while he's giving you this great $5,000 rebate check, he's taking away with the other hand by taxing your income. So by having the federal government subsidize part or all of your insurance, it'll ensure that more people will have the health insurance that they need. It's unfortunate that George W. Bush is pissing away millions and millions of dollars in Iraq while more people and then everyone in this country don't have health insurance.
90 seconds.
You love talking about George W. Bush, don't you? Well, unfortunately, this election isn't about George W. Bush because he's not running, okay? The person running is John McCain. Now, I'd like to ask all of you a simple question. Is there one government agency or division that runs efficiently? Look at the U.S. tax code. Not something easy to follow by. Now, just look, they like talking about the economic situation, which they'll blame on the Republicans, they'll blame on George Bush, but they won't put the real blame on Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the people who really caused this problem. Another government-funded problem. So, yeah, we all agree that everyone should get health care, but let's, we can just look. We can just look at what happens when the government takes care of health care. Go across the border to Canada, our friendly hockey-loving neighbors to the north. I like them because I love hockey. I'm a big Ranger fan, by the way. Basically, you look at people who are shipped across the border in the throes of a heart attack because they don't have the correct equipment to deal with an angioplasty. Or cancer, people with kidney cancer who can't get the up-to-date medication because, like I said, the government will not foot the bill. We don't need to go to Canada. We go to the UK, where, again, kidney cancer medication is not available because it's, as the government says, just too expensive and not economically proven. Now, he brought up that tax cut. Now, this is the taxing on medical care. Now, this is a vital issue because Obama likes to say that, oh, you're going to get money, but he's going to tax it. Well, let's just look at it this way. Suppose you're a middle-class family in a 25% income tax bracket, and your employer pays $1,000 a month for your health insurance. I'm not a math major, but that's $12,000 a year. The resulting tax on that would be $3,000. And John McCain is going to go ahead and give you $5,000. 5,000 minus 3,000 is 2,000. And you get to keep that money in a health savings account, which you can use to pay further deductibles.
30 seconds, Dan.
All right, well, let's take a look at John McCain's rebate policy, shall we? Well, in the first, actually there wasn't really a true indication because in the front, this year, maybe next year, you'll actually probably save, $1,000 or $2,000. In 6 years, if you have, including inflation, where there's a 9% inflation rate because of medical expenses in this country, which keeps going up every single year, and then the 3% inflation rate for tax credit, in 6 years, you'll actually be paying more in taxes under the Senator McCain plan than under Senator Obama. And according to the Tax Policy Center, it's a nonpartisan group that looked at both these plans, and they determined that Senator Obama's plan would have 34 million people covered under his plan. And finally, he looked at
Only 50 seconds now.
But maybe that's okay because I think we're having a stimulating discussion. I want to stay with it.
Yeah.